maintain 5,200 to establish an approach.
Hi everyone, welcome to yet another episode of Tower Tales, the ATC Podcast. This is your host Mahesh Sharma, joining you from Hyderabad. Here I bring you the untold stories of veteran air traffic controllers from the Indian Air Force. In each episode, we delve into their experiences, sharing their real stories, challenges, and the critical roles they played in ensuring the safety and security of our skies. Get ready to explore the fascinating world of these veteran controllers who were once very radioactive. A guest for this episode is an octogenarian veteran from the 30th Ground Duty Officers Course who was commissioned in June 1964. His first posting was Pathankot, where he saw the 1965 war as a young pilot officer. He is an alumnus of Defence Services Staff College who attended the 32nd Air Staff Course. He was part of the team which saw the first French transportable ground-controlled approach radar getting inducted into the IAF. He has served at many operational bases and has been an ATC examiner in Directorate of Air Staff Inspection, directing staff at ATCO, Air Traffic Control Officers Training Establishment, and commanding officer of 2 transportable radar squadrons. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Group Captain N Krishnamurthy today for this podcast. Good afternoon, Group Captain Krishnamurthy. It is such a pleasure to connect with you, sir.
Equally, it was a pleasure in the sense that I had missed connecting with the ATCOs directly, on the job. When I say that, I'm talking, DATCO ship, So that part ended as far back as Hindon, and that was in 1968, 1970. So that was, after that, when I pushed off to 901 and then came to Air Headquarters as an examiner, after that camaraderie, direct one with the colleagues and fellow controllers was actually lost. And out there in first floor of Y1, it was rather lonely, in the sense that I was too young. Frankly speaking, I was too young. I should have had at least one more DATCO ship, as I say, along with my fellow controllers.
Yes, and I think I completely understand your feelings because having been in Mayuman myself, I think the life is different as a DATCO or an active ATC stations and what it is in headquarters. And invariably, whenever I meet people, they have very fond remembrances of their tenures as DATCO. And given a chance, anybody would like to be in active duty as a DATCO at a flying base. Okay, so let's move on and talk about your life and times as an ATC officer, as a controller. How did you come to join the ATC or Air Force in particular? I think it has got something to do with your love for sports and especially table tennis.
Yeah, actually, I should be thankful that Flying Officer Ganeshan, that time equipment branch, later on logistics, I think, he was posted at Cotton Green, on the shores of Bombay. And he was an avid fan of table tennis. And he was keen to make TT team for the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
The Air Force had already got the cricketers on board. I think Dani sir was there. There was a ATCO also, VM Mudaya, who was an off spinner, who had also made it to the ATC. He was senior to me. And Dani sir was also senior. So this man wanted to make an table tennis team, which unfortunately never materialized. Thanks to first of all, I went to Adam branch, and that is what was given to me, whereas all of them were equippers.
Okay.
So went to Adam, and then ATC, and then 65 war, and that ended all the plans of. I had an opportunity and meet him later, much later, as the SLO at Tezpur, much later during one of my DASI visits there. So that is how I joined.
So I think you commissioned in June 64. And
Yes.
by the time you finished your controller's course and moved to the first posting, that is Pathankot,
Yeah.
the war had already started.
No. Actually, I was posted to Pathankot sometime in October 64.
Okay.
And the war started in 65.
Okay.
So there was a kind of a breather. Although, mind you, I was just a pilot officer with 1 year of service when the war broke out. I mean, 1 year ATC service, maybe including Adam and all, 1.5 years plus. But otherwise, it was just, at the those days, it was, you started off as a pilot officer. So that was, that is all that you had. But the war taught us so much. And we found that pilot officers, with all their josh and enthusiasm, were needed badly, not only for their, young age. The system allowed them to speak up and, at the right time, of course. And it never took any umbrage at anyone speaking up. Otherwise, normally at that end, one is to just keep shut and keep listening only. But it was not like that at that time because, well, the demands of the situation, I think it was like that.
I think you were one of the fortunate ones who were there when the operations began. Do you recall something about the ATC and the operations which are still etched in your memory?
Yes, the SATCO had 2 controllers with him, and that's all he had. That was the assets available to him. The kind of flying that went on, there were 3 fighter squadrons, 331 and 45.
Okay.
Rather, 108. 45 came much later. 331 and 108 squadron, vampires. And 108 was, matched with our age group, the youngsters were there. One had a very close rapport with them in the mess. And life was good in the sense that you had a role to play, sort of. And I still remember one of the fighter guys took me to his flight commander and introduced me like this, that here is a guy, he is, table tennis background and all. And he has joined us. We knew him from his playing days. They were Bombay lot, St. Xavier's. So the flight commander looked at me. Okay, good. Now it's your payback time, sort of, because they all were admirers. Now he says it's your payback time. And then added, listen, mysterious, it eat up the runway and carry on. So temperatures, as they soar in the summer, you have to be very, very careful. If you are not careful, you will be directing, traffic, not of aircraft, but of the vehicles on the Chakki cut. It is beyond the other end of the runway, 0119. So it was beyond 19 threshold. So you would be directing there. I say, okay, fine. So from that day onwards, that was a great bonus for me in that I was put on the right track, sort of. And we shared the Sundays. Mind you, with all this, the packets were also thrown in. Fairchild packet C, the twin boomed ones, which did a yeoman service during that time.
Yes.
Full squadron detachment was there. I would say about 10 aircraft from Agra. Otherwise, their base was Agra. But theirs was the field posting for them. Their briefings used to be 1.5 hours before sun morning. So one had to land up with the data on all the airfields, forward area airfields. That include Leh and Kargil and Phukche and Thois. They were all advanced landing grounds, We used to get the data and present it in the briefing. And the bonus in the briefing was hot cup of chai with condensed milk thrown in, and excellent sandwiches made of Kraft cheese. Those days, nobody made cheese in India. So they were getting the imported Kraft cheese as their rations, field rations. So life was good. You attended the briefing, came back to the tower, and it was wheels up. Just as the sun rose, it was wheels up for them. And they used to come back and make 3 sorties in a day. So we had to adjust, when he comes, we had to adjust the fighter traffic accordingly. And also, you gave priority to the guy who's returning, because he has to land and again turn around and go back. And the fighters understood, and they all, it was a part of, the whole system. And it worked. It worked beautifully.
It's so lovely to hear those the stories from those days. During the operations, what were some of the limitations that you operated with during the 65 war? I know we used to practice all those things, with the goosenecks and the activation of the airfield, standby ATC and all. Any memories from some of those facilities which posed a challenge or which was a difficult thing from
Our
those times?
old ATC at Pathankot, before the Air Force took over to organize that airfield to deploy fighters, our old ATC itself was the working place for us. And the new ATC came up across the runway on the other side. But there was some serious issues of that building. So we continued operation from this end. And it helped us that we continued from the old ATC. And we found that we could deliver everything from there.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Since Pathankot, the winters used to be very harsh, that part of North India, did you have problems of poor visibility, and how was it handled during those days?
Yes, poor visibility days were there, and winters being close to the hills, not only in the up north, on the right side also, we had the Himachal, and it was a joining place of 3 borders of the Punjab, Himachal, and J&K. That was the place. So you had factors thrown in from all 3. So visibility, was. But the packets invariably, when they took off in the morning, it wasn't as bad. The visibility problem set in only when just about sunrise, and by then he is already airborne. So, and we had the fighters having problems. We never had night flying. None of them were equipped for night flying. And we just about managed daytime. I would say the summer was more challenging than winter, there.
So, and summers, what was the kind of challenge you had in summers, sir?
Well, the summers were in the sense that once the 45 squadron came in, and before that 108 squadron, the youngsters moved on to Bagdogra to make space. There was no place. So they came in. Once they came in, we had to manage the entire flying in a different kind of way, in the sense that, and as the war broke out, the packets had to clear, because otherwise they were sitting ducks. They were parked in the open, unlike blast pens for the others. And the summer, why I said the temperatures, the misters, every degree counted for his takeoff roll. Whereas the Gnats by then came, 23 squadron, they actually just ran along the runway. I mean, he just got airborne in no time. So they were parked close to the other end. The Mistiers had to use, every slightest tailwind caused serious problems for him. Whereas Gnats, it never caused any problems as a tailwind. He just got amon, that's all, and carried
Well,
on.
I think you had a whole range of experience as a DATCO, as a controller. I think not only as a DATCO, you were SATCO, you were examiner, you were CEO of a transportable squadron. So I think you have such rich experience, which others would be very envious of. So moving on to your experience as a CEO of a transportable GCA, would you like to share some thoughts on that? How it came to be? I believe you were part of the team which got them from Thomson CSF.
Yes, that was in 1983, I think. We went in February. And I was in Yelahanka that time. And the word spread there. I didn't know. And it is the Satco Yelahanka. I think Srini was there, LP Srinivasan, who gave the information. Yes, 5 of us went to Paris. Meudon was the place where not very far from where the tennis matches go on, right now. We went there and, my service number gave me the tag of a team leader. So I had to manage her. And, 2 course mates were there in the team. And as the team leader, I had the privilege of going every week to the embassy. And that time, Tango Sir, later Vice Chief, Air Marshal Tango Singh, he was the air attaché there.
Okay.
So they were quite helpful in
Great, sir. So now I know that whenever a new system is introduced, and especially, I remember when we moved from the 8210C to DRDF or CADF, and similarly in radars, I think you were working with the NTPC radar earlier, and then we got the transportable GCA, the 95 series. How much time did it take for the controllers to get used to it, and how was it much better than the previous radars?
Actually, the system was good in the sense that you had rolling balls, on the keyboard.
Yes.
And you had an electronic keyboard. You touch and you could label the otherwise raw echo generated at a antenna site. Then that data was transferred here to your ops cabin, and the ops cabin had display units, and there we had the controllers, rolling ball, and keyboards and all. So one could label. But those were all meant for steady flights. When it was local flying of fighters, who's all the while turning this way, that way, and carrying on, the system was programmed that if you don't get 3 ecos, and the label used to disappear, But that is because 3 make a line. 2 can be a curved line, but 3 make a line, And the system was oriented to, because the RPM, everything was linked with all these issues. So the first installation was at 951. And the French team came themselves, installed it for us. The second, third, and fourth, the 4 systems that came, were to be our own installation. There we hit serious roadblocks. So we had to tackle that.
The transportable GCA was a big shift in the way controlling was done because of its the features it had, and I'm sure the ATCOs would have found it much better than the that time existing radar ANTP, and which incidentally you've also worked on.
Yes, I worked on.
And I think you worked on ARSR also.
Yes, I worked on 901.
I think, sir, you were instrumental in getting quite a few things done for the ATC. One of them was getting the proficiency badge.
Yes.
I think
the fighter controllers already had it.
Okay.
And that is after the rather, I would say, when 65, or after all, air defense was much more important. I mean, it was very clear that air defense takes priority over. You can recover only when you launch to defend yourself. So air defense took its priority. So when we landed up in DASI, my guru in ATC, squad leader late SN Sharma, when we landed up, the fighter controllers were already there. So they had that, that brass badge for Cat A. So we just went through the AFO on that subject, how they got the authorization and all. So at the end of the AFO, there is a link, the file, the main file, sort of.
The file reference.
Yeah, file reference. So I noted it down because we wanted to have a similar one for us. So we took up with the dress committee of D.org. So the D.org said that the dress committee has just about met about a few days back. Now we have to wait till the next meeting, which will be after a year. They meet once a year to pass new ones, So we went back to the director saying that, well, this is the problem. That file reference number helped me. So Air Headquarters has a record room.
Okay.
So they will keep records of all the files. And so with that and the blessings of the director, went there, record room. And mind you, it was great to have a flight lieutenant with 8 years of service or 9 years by then to go there and the guy takes out the file and gives it to you. Finished.
Yeah.
So I brought that file back to the directorate, went through, and there we found a note by the then Air Chief Marshal Arjun Singh. I mean, he had remarked while approving the controller's proficiency badge for Cat A of fighter controllers, he wrote there saying that, okay, approved, as and when ATCO's categorization scheme is started, we must apply the same parameters, give them the same badge. I showed it to the director. I said, sir, here is the... So I think we can bypass this statement of case for dress committee and all that. We just send this file, our file, and get the approval of the next chief. By then, the next chief was there. So he said, yes, we can. So he wrote a note saying that we would like the same for Cat A approved. And we had the badge.
So you were instrumental in
Not instrumental.
getting
It is the team. It is the team which helped actually.
So that brings me to another feather in your cap, so to say, which was, you being the part of the first examiner, ATC examiner in Directorate of Air Staff Inspection, the ATC DASI. Is that correct?
Yes, along with, as a co-founder, along with SN Sharma sir, with whom I've spent 4 tenures.
Okay. How was it like, sir? Can you recall some of your early days as an examiner?
Yes, we traveled the length and breadth of the country, visiting all the fighter airfields. And we conducted the tests, appointed command examiners, and then command examiners were to examine the controllers to abort Cat C and, put them on the right track, youngsters.
So I think some great work was done by you for the ATC fraternity.
You see, fortunately, we didn't have anything to start with. We had to start ourselves. We had no precedent, how to go about the categorization scheme, how to go about appointing examiners, Air Force examiners, and so on. It carried on so
you
many.
started from the scratch, and especially because you were not very experienced in terms of your years of service.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's something really great. So moving on to another subject, which is about your times as DATCO. Can you recall any challenging incident or a day as a DATCO which comes to your mind? I think you have some great experiences. Every DATCO has, but I'm sure you would have something that you would love to recall and share with us.
Yes, talking about that, everything that we said or didn't say recorded. So it is produced, right in front of you. This is what is your. So what do you have to say about it? So we are products of that,
Yeah.
So that is transparency,
Yeah.
But transparency brings also curiosity.
Yeah.
In the sense that if you want to be transparent, you want to have a clean slate, then you go step by step, and carry on. So, as a DATCO, I will not forget an incident at Hindon. It was not our local flying aircraft. It was not coming to us, neither going from us. So, what happened was that I was on the Homer frequency. By then, I think 210C had come. And I was on the Homer, and my fellow ATCO was on the aerodrome control frequency. And on the Homer, I suddenly hear, mind you, our local flying is over. Next day was Christmas.
Okay.
It is Christmas Eve. So, it was pack up and things,
Yeah.
had to be
People are
arranged
already
for.
in that.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
building up the mood for the same.
Yeah.
So, our flying was over, but yet I heard somebody on the Homer frequency talking to somebody else. So I said, what is this? Mind you, at that time I didn't notice the bearing.
Okay.
On the 210C. But the talk made me inquisitive. So I asked him, which station are you airborne from? So he said the call sign. He didn't, on confidential frequency, he calls him. That call sign was not in front of me. We had our
neighboring.
neighboring.
Yeah.
This airfield call sign was not with me. So it took me some time to realize what goes on. So in that time, I had noted the bearing. So maybe almost a minute later, I asked him, what's your destination? So he said, the confidential call sign of our neighboring airfield. So I said, if he's coming to Palam, so I thought he's coming from up north. Because but here it was that the bearing was increasing. So I requested my colleague, he had the direct line with Palam. I said, yeah, ye kahan se aa raha hai, kahan? So they gave us the first link. This is coming from Jamnagar. Okay. And there are 4 aircraft. I didn't know until then there were 4. Yeah. Okay. I thought there were 2 because one was, they were talking among themselves. Yeah. So it was 4. And they said it is Gnats. So Jamnagar. So if he's coming from Jamnagar, he shouldn't be northwest of me. He should be southwest of me. And Palm was southwest. Yeah. So obviously it gave me a warning that they have overshot the parliament. Mind you, they were cruising around 45,000 feet at height. And the Gnat, and from that height, to pick up landmarks and, it's just not done. And there was no radar cover. TPN-12 was off, and even if it was on, it had its own limitations, serious limitations. Yeah. So anyway, I blurted out, saying that I think you have crossed the destination and you turn right. Where am homing? He wouldn't believe me. The captain wouldn't believe me. I mean, I don't blame him. Since he wouldn't believe me, I said, okay. I knew the Nats during 65 war, some of them were modified with Eureka and Rebecca. Now I'm going back to the old days. Yeah. I think it is not, I don't think it is there in service now. So Eureka was the ground equipment and Rebecca was the airborne equipment. I said, do you have Rebecca on board? He said, yes. I said, my Eureka is on. I still remember the frequency. And when he tuned on, he had, fortunately, because he was the squadron commander, which I came to know later. I didn't know even then that he is squadron commander. So yes, squadron commander had the best aircraft to fly with, and he is leading the initial formation. So he tuned in and it gave him the correct bearing and distance. So he followed my turn and he came over. I said, you have cleared to come overhead. You are also free to land at my airfield and there is no traffic. You can descend and land here. Because I was worried about fuel. How much fuel he is having. To what extent he is overshot, distance I don't know. So he felt that he's got enough fuel, number one. Number two, landing at Hindon will be a big trouble in the sense that ground equipment, a lot of things have to be. He didn't have Nats. So Palam was equipped, they had positioned there.
Yeah.
So he chose to go to Palam. I said, okay, here is the distance in heading towards Palam. And meanwhile, Palam was alerted to keep the airfield free because we anticipated low on fuel. So the airfield was kept free. They landed there. Story doesn't end there. Actually, story had just begun.
Okay.
And now it involved SWAC. And SWAC had still not formed. It was number one operations group.
Yes, yes.
A cluster of airfields. A group was formed away from Western Air Command. Number North Group, Western Air Command, and Central Air Command, and Airfield.
Mm-hmm.
Why I am saying Central Air Command is all which came out later.
Mm-hmm.
I had handed over to DATCO and pushed off. My time was over. So 2:30, I was back in the mess having my lunch. Around 3:15, I get a call from the tower. We come over here. Something very serious has happened. Nothing involving us. Something. I said, what happened? Tell me. You come here. So I rushed back to the tower. And what we found was another batch of 4 aircraft were cruising, same height. The only thing is they didn't talk on that homo frequency of ours. And that was nobody or no DATCO was alerted, no home.
Yeah.
And they carried on, thinking that Palam is yet to come.
So
And
they
ran out of
threw
fuel.
a beam.
Yes,
Palam and Hindon.
yes.
Yeah.
And then carried on.
Okay.
And landed up almost northeast, slightly northeast of us.
Okay.
Saw an airfield, and having run out of fuel, they landed there. 4 Gnats landed at Sarsawa.
Oh, okay. They're fortunate.
It's very fortunate that they spotted the airfield.
Yes.
From that height to spot a runway. That is because when the crisis happens, the system has trained you to raise your level of, that is what the pilots did. Great credit to them, I would say, given what had happened. So, they landed. So now, the Koda inquiry naturally had to be ordered by Western Air Command because it has happened right under their nose in Palam. WAC, the new building was still not there.
Yeah.
It's operating from Palam, next door. So, Koda inquiry was ordered, and my logbook was sealed and sent to
Code of inquiry.
So, ATC it is never a dull moment. And it is always, the same goes for the aircrew. I would say what happens to the aircrew happens to us also. So,
but this is something great, sir. Because of your curiosity and the inquisitiveness.
Yes.
And as the luck would have it, they were on your homo frequency.
Yes.
The day was saved. So amazing. I'm sure you're full of such stories.
I got the chief's commendation for that.
You truly deserved it. Great, sir. What I notice is the curiosity, the inquisitiveness, and to be able to relate, to see trends and to be able to relate incidents and share the knowledge with others is something which has come out very, very explicitly in experiences that you have narrated. I think it's very, very important lesson for all the ATCOs, and not only ATCOs, any professional, to be able to. I think it's an asset, it's an attribute to be inquisitive, to be able to see trends, to relate them, and to be able to share the information. I think it's a great attribute which stands out in your narration.
I agree. My principle as a SATCO, mind you, that time I was SATCO, was that if there is any facility in front of you and you are the one to operate it, then you should know a bit of what happens when, not how. How is there are technical guys and it is beyond your call of duty. But certainly the time and space. This time and space is your domain. That is how ATC works in time and space.
And what is ownership about? I think it's a sense of ownership and accountability.
Yes.
So we had some great interaction, and I think before we end this podcast, one thing I would like to ask you, from your perspective, what do you think are the attributes for a good controller, a proficient controller?
Well, I'll go back to borrowing from what BJP Rao uttered. What if, he said something like, what if? Because your options are there: appreciation, anticipation, reaction. These are all basic attributes of ATC. But every time you evolve after appreciating and anticipating a reaction, you have to plan what if. It's not like plan A, plan B. It could be D or any other.
And he said, yes, I remember he said not only the foreseeable, anticipated ones, but also the non-anticipated, which
Yes,
can
right.
happen on the spur of the moment.
So it
He
is
said foresee and forestall.
oversold.
I think we had a wonderful talk, and thanks for sparing so much of your time. I wish you all the best, and looking forward to meeting you someday in future. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks a lot, and good luck, and good wishes to all my fellow ATCOs, wherever they are.
I'm sure they're waiting to listen to your podcast.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for
Thank
that.
you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into Tower Tales, the ATC podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and had a first-hand peek into the incredible work and life of yet another veteran controller. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe to my channel on YouTube, leave a review, and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. This podcast is also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Your feedback will help me bring you more of the content you enjoy. Join me after a fortnight for yet another engaging discussion with a veteran air traffic controller. Until then, this is Mahesh Sharma, your host, signing off for now. Safe travels and happy landings.
One